Rabikoff. This week we are back in the kitchen at room 39 with our executive chef and owner, Ted Habiger. Ted, thank you for inviting us back into your kitchen.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, so we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating, and that is your illustrious journey to room 39.
You're very kind.
I remember you first at Cafe Allegro, and the reason is that while I was eating there, I literally went to the server and said, "Who is the chef? Your food's been extraordinary for years."
Thank you. I had one of those moments when you're in your mid-20s or late 20s where you're like, is this what I really want to do? And I quit the business. And I went and took a 9-to-5 job because I thought that that's what my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, wanted me to do. I found myself not being able to get out of bed in the morning because I wasn't doing something I enjoyed.
That's a sign, Ted, yes.
Right,
Okay.
and so I went to, so I had left Cafe Allegro at this point, but I was still in Kansas City, and I went to Steve Cole, who's really my mentor and the owner of Cafe Allegro, and I said, "What should I do?" And he goes, "Go to New York. Go to New York.
Advice,
Go," and he said, "Don't be a sous chef. Don't try to be a chef somewhere. Go work at the best restaurant you can work at and start from the ground up."
Great advice.
I had been to Danielle earlier that week. I'd been to Le Bernardin. I'd been to Mesa Grill, which is Bobby Flay's restaurant. None of them had soul like Union Square Cafe.
This was a match.
Yes,
It was a
absolutely.
match.
I need a kitchen with soul.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so you spent your time there in New York, and what brought you, and thankfully, but what brought you, you promised when you left you were coming back. We would have had to go to New York, get you, and bring you back.
That might have been an empty promise at the time because I really thought I might be moving away for good. What ended up happening is that I ended up kind of reconnecting with my girlfriend in Kansas City.
So we get you back here.
And then 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And with 9/11, it also made us realize that we really loved each other and we needed to be together. And this was, life's too short, you know? So she moved out to New York with me and got a job at the restaurant with me at Union Square Cafe, which was fun. I ended up calling my good friend Andy Sloan and saying, "What's going on in Kansas City these days?" And he was like, "Well, I'm getting ready to quit my job. You want to do something together?" So that's really how we got started doing our catering company.
Yeah. You did your catering company and then
for about a year.
And then how did room 39 happen?
The moment we walked in the back door, we said, "This is it. This is it. Absolutely."
A room 39 concept. What is the food here?
Right.
What are you trying to accomplish here?
It was great restaurants,
Yep.
but there wasn't any that were really dedicated to doing 100% seasonal food, and there wasn't anybody doing breakfast. And I grew up in Kansas City eating
Of this, nobody was doing breakfast with this kind of concept.
Right, not chef-driven food.
Chef-driven. So let's talk about the seasonal. I mean, you all are devoted to local as much as possible, which does drive that seasonal menu.
Right.
So tell me about your efforts with that.
That is it's one of those things, like, we're always looking for the best ingredients. And
we can taste that.
And we do, and not only that, but it's almost like a way of life where my phone calls with the farmers are one of the most important things that I do on a week-to-week basis.
Every week you're having a conversation in depth with an understanding of what's available, why, and why it's good.
And how that changes our dishes. You know, one thing that we do is that every single dish has its own components. There isn't a seasonal vegetable medley that goes on every plate, where some restaurants will have like the meat and the sauce, and that's the most important thing, and then the vegetable is kind of a secondary thing.
Right.
And for us, the vegetable is as important on the plate as the meat and the sauce.
In addition to being a chef, you are also the inspiration, you are the leadership in the kitchen. What is it you want to impart to your cooks? If I'm a cook in your kitchen, what am I gonna, be learning?
It's not easy.
I've been told.
But the most important things for me are about working well with others, being patient.
You have a partner in crime here,
yes.
Andy, and before we go in the kitchen, we'd like to spend some time talking to him.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. We will be in the kitchen very shortly. What are we making today?
We're making veal sweetbreads.
I've never done this before, but now I will.
And the truffled bread pudding.
And did I hear spinach earlier?
Yeah, there's some of the spinach from that gentleman in DeSoto, Kansas, Thane Palmer.
We continue our chat with the chef here at Room 39 with their co-owner and co-chef, Andy Sloan. You go by Andy, yes?
Either one.
Okay.
Andy or Andrew.
Andy or Andrew. All right, so you're the partner in crime.
Yes.
And Ted was in New York, and what should we do? And calls you, and the two of you get together, and
We just kind of sat down and talked and decided that we didn't really want to work for anybody anymore. We'd been doing that for a long time, and
oh, is this something you knew you wanted to do?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that from the beginning.
From the beginning.
From the
That was-
beginning,
it
and
was
you've
what
remained.
I wanted to do, and yeah. still
Did you like Ted try a corporate job or something else for a period of time?
No, I didn't.
No, you straight. It's in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Okay.
Started out as a dishwasher when I was 12 years
there you
old,
go.
and not
We have
supposed to be
several
working
chefs.
that long, but
Oh, yeah, I know.
but still did, and
Child
then
labor,
just
yeah.
kind of got into. Every time I could, I'd get away from the dishes and start looking at what everybody was doing cooking wise, and they'd let me try it out and all this, and then finally I just said, it's time for me to be cooking. So by age 14, that's all I was doing, and age 18, 19, I got my first chef job, and haven't looked back.
Okay. All right. So this has always been there. What inspires you
Smiles, people.
from the
Yeah.
diners?
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've never prepared sweetbreads before.
Sweetbreads are probably my favorite thing.
Okay. Tell me why.
It's unlike any other thing. I mean, it's unlike any other meat that you're gonna get. If I go out to a restaurant and I'm eating and sweetbreads are on the menu, I'm ordering it. I want to make sure that I can always have them. They're delicious, and they're very hard to describe to people.
Okay. We're going to learn about that, and you're also working with truffles, which is a very exotic ingredient, and we're going to be excited to work with that. Okay, Andrew, that means it's time to go in the kitchen.
Excited.
Right? So we're going to make the sweetbreads, and we're going to make truffle bread pudding and this exciting spinach that just came in. Okay, and I think you should join us. We are in the kitchen at Room 39 getting ready to put together the signature dish with their executive chef, Ted Habiger. Ted, okay, it's time to make the truffle bread pudding.
Right.
What's our mise en place?
Okay. So I've got my black truffles here, which we're gonna steep with a little bit of cream.
They arrived in a Brinks truck?
That's right.
Yes, they did. Okay.
Now you can spend a lot of money on these. They can be $1,000 for a pound.
I heard that.
Or you can get some Oregon ones, which aren't as good, but they're definitely more affordable, and you can usually buy that at your local butcher.
All right, and again, it adds that smoky flavor to it. All right, so this is cream.
Right. This is whenever I make any bread pudding, I kind of have a basic base that I
Right.
start with. And that's
Whether it's sweet or savory.
right, sweet or savory.
Right.
I always have 2 cups of cream or milk.
Yeah.
This is a mixture of both, so it's half and
Half and half, okay.
And 3 eggs.
Okay.
That's the most
There we
important thing
go.
for me. And about this much bread.
And this is a egg bread brioche.
Yeah, this is a brioche. Right?
Yes.
But any bread can be used. I usually use a sweeter bread like brioche for desserts, and then I use like a ciabatta or a baguette for savory things.
Okay.
I do want this one for the sweetbreads though.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I have a little bit of cream in there, and then I'm just going to take my truffle
Yes.
and quickly dice that up.
And so a truffle grows on is it the roots of trees?
Yeah, it's on oak and birch. Those are the 2 that you often
And
see.
is it true that little pigs go out and help you find them?
Well,
okay. Or dogs?
Dogs mostly now. The pigs will eat them.
Oh, okay. So,
So-
maybe not pigs.
Right. I was just in France last year, and while I was there, I ran into a guy named Bruno. Well, he's a winemaker, and we went to his house
think I've heard of
in the Rhone Valley.
Okay, I'm going to take a smell of
Yes.
this.
And he,
It is that
it was
smoky, wonderful, yeah.
It was at the end of truffle season, and he wanted to show us his town, and so he takes us in his car and drives us up to the top of his town and everything. And while we're in the car, I'm like, what is that? Do you have truffles with you? And he reaches into his pocket and pulls out like an aluminum foil pack. It was like drugs, you know? It was like an aluminum foil package of truffles. And he had
Just want to make sure the police didn't get it right.
tons on their property. And
oh, how nice.
and he said he would send them back to me, but I'm not sure that that's completely legal. I have to go through importing channels,
Okay.
you know. So.
All right, so these are from Oregon, and maybe not quite as good as what we would find in France, but still wonderful.
Still very flavorful and have a lot of aromas to them still.
Okay.
So I put all of that in there.
Anything else in the cream while it's...
You know, I put a little bit of salt in there and a little bit of pepper, but that's it at this point. If I'm making a sweet one of my secrets is I always like to put a little bit of ginger in.
I need to try that.
Yes.
So now to our brioche.
Now I've got a loaf of brioche, and
do you prefer it to be a day old?
Yeah,
because
you want it to be a little bit drier, so it doesn't fall apart so much when you're baking it. After you mix the cream in, it can get a little bit mushy, and you don't want it to be so mushy.
I noticed that are you taking the crust off?
Yes.
Okay, because that maybe not the best mouthfeel and
right.
And
it cooks. It's already been cooked far, and so it may end up burning.
So these little guys are going to go into cubes.
Yep, all going into cubes, and then we'll put those off to the side. And this is so I always get the bread ready to go.
Right.
Put some of those truffles in there. It's fine.
A little bit.
It's drying
so
a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to soak up all that wonderful cream. Now what are we doing?
Now I'm gonna add a little bit of this. Black truffle oil. It's kind of funny because it's gone through this fad period.
Yes.
And then it also became like kind of passe for a while. I'm telling you, when something's good, it's okay.
Don't let it go. Don't let it go.
I mean, you think they're arguing about this in Italy right now? I don't think they are.
No, we're not going to spend time arguing. I have to have one little smell.
Black truffle oil.
Oh, that's
great aromas.
Oh goodness, no wonder. Why would anyone have an argument about that? I can't imagine.
Right. I'm just going to do a little quick chiffonade on the sage. The thing with fresher. Oh, please, that's really what you need to use here. There are a place for dry herbs, but not this dish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just chiffonade a little bit right there, and then go back on it one time. I try not to over chop my herbs because
they get bruised and
they get bruised. You end up smelling them in your nose, and that means that it's not still in. You're releasing the oils too much.
Good point.
So you just want to touch it once or twice, and now it's ready.
I never thought of that, but if it's just hitting you in the face, then you're losing some of the flavor.
That's something that's not going in.
We won't do that, right?
Now I chose to supplement a little bit of the black truffles with some more mushrooms that can give some flavor. These are shiitake mushrooms.
And remember to take the stem off.
Right. You could use creminis, you can use oyster mushrooms, you can use portobellos, anything like that. So just a little bit more to add. All right. I want to look at our cream. And it's just...
Now, what are you wanting to have happen with the cream? You don't want it to come to a roaring boil?
I want it to come up to a heavy simmer. And then I'm going to set it as low as I can and let it steep for just a few minutes while I'm finishing.
Do we want it to reduce at all?
No, just this is a blended oil. This has a little bit of soybean oil and a little bit of olive oil mixed together.
But you don't want to use your good extra virgin olive oil at a time like this.
That would really be
a waste. It'd be a waste.
And olive oil, really, really good olive oil is something that everybody should have in their kitchen and treat it with a lot of, treat it like gold.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
It's an endangered species of sorts because a lot of olive oils are crept into the market that are not real.
We're learning about
good
that.
Olive oils.
We're learning about that.
And I'll add a little bit of mushroom. See how it was released from the pan? That was because my pan was hot. If my pan was cold,
we forget. I know, we forget. Let the pan get hot first, add the oil, and then you're not going to have the sticking problem.
Right. And you want to get some sort of color on these.
So we're looking for a little bit of caramelization.
Mm-hmm. Release the sugars that are in there. Cook that sugar. I'm going to add my herbs and my garlic and a little bit of salt.
To the mushrooms?
To the mushrooms.
Okay.
So another layer.
I noticed you didn't salt that until after it started caramelizing.
Right. I could burn the salt a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm doing that now. And right here, I'm pretty much going to turn off the heat once I add the garlic, because I don't want the garlic to burn.
Because we're going into a very hot pan.
Right. And I'm also, let's see, I use about a little bit more than half of that garlic.
Maybe 3/4.
Yeah.
And you went again by the way it looked and the smell as you were chopping it. And for those of you who can't toss pans in the air while the contents were used,
You can stir.
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 Which is what I do.
Now I'm starting to smell that garlic really release. I'm going to add just a little bit more oil. You could put a little bit of truffle oil possibly in this right now.
Cubed bread that's been tossed with some truffle oil.
Okay.
Do you want your eggs at room temperature when you're going to cook with them?
It's not necessary.
Not necessary for this. I
Not
know
for
if you're
this.
baking, sometimes you
Right.
would like that.
I often will bring my eggs out for whatever I'm getting ready to use them for, at the beginning.
Okay.
Makes it a little easier. I do personally like my eggs at my house that I scramble for
Yes.
myself. I like them at room temperature before I start to cook them. I feel like they just taste better that way.
I agree.
I like to pick them from the chickens in my backyard. No, I'm just kidding. I wish.
I knew when we were, crossing the line here, Sarah. Okay.
Okay.
So now we're
I've got
going to
my
whisk
eggs.
these little
Gonna
guys.
Whisk them together.
Now, this is an important technique,
This
so
is.
please talk us through
And you
it.
can do this with a couple of different ways. I tend to try to make as little mess as possible, not using as much tools. And so I'm going to pour a little bit of this, just like less than an ounce, into my eggs, a little bit at a time while I'm whisking, in order to bring the eggs up to the same temperature as this.
The goal is not to scramble the eggs while...
Exactly.
Exactly.
If I just poured this in there right there, it
Scrambled
would
eggs.
scramble them before I had a chance to mix them.
Okay.
So this is called tempering, so I'll just mix a little bit in there. Do a little bit more. And the way I know when I've got it right is that I'll feel the bowl. Like, okay,
It's not hot.
Not quite hot enough yet.
But you didn't scramble the eggs either.
Didn't scramble the eggs.
The goal.
Put enough in there. That's probably enough. And then feel it nice and warm.
Now it's warm.
Okay. So now at this point you can just add them back in
Without fear.
without fear. They're ready. I'll turn off my stove. If I did that right. I don't know if I did that right. Alright. And now this is basically a custard. So
Right.
now it's ready to go into my bread pudding mixture.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And just a little bit of butter
That's lovely.
really
Yeah.
makes it great. Okay. We're gonna do two since there's gonna be two of you.
Yes, there is.
And then you just spoon out some. And you want to get some of the liquid, but you also want to make sure that's not all liquid. I kind of try to get rid of the air bubbles by kind of pressing things down on
That's
there.
good. That's
Just
good.
a little bit
Yeah.
with your spoon.
Now, are you putting it in hot water?
I actually use cold.
Okay,
started out-
that's a new one.
A lot of times recipes will say start with hot.
I know.
But I find that for me, I don't fill it up. I only go about halfway,
okay.
and I use cold. And really, all I'm wanting to do is keep the bottom from burning while I'm.
That is so much easier to manage
Sure
when
is.
you're not playing around with some big hot pan.
Yeah.
So cold water, you don't need to fill it up halfway like
Nope.
we've traditionally done, or some of us have traditionally done. And that's ready to go in the oven.
That's
What
ready to go in the oven.
heat?
350,
About
nice
how long?
moderate oven, 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, we're continuing our signature dish here at Room 39 with the veal sweetbreads. Executive Chef Andy Sloan is going to take us through the beginning of this. What do we have?
What we have here is we have veal sweetbreads, which we've been soaking in milk overnight.
Just plain old milk.
Plain old milk.
Plain old milk. Did we put anything else in there besides plain old milk?
Now there's a little bit of sage that kind of got in there, but
Okay.
the milk is just going to help pull some of the blood out, help tenderize.
All right, and sometimes we do that with chicken before we fry it.
Exactly.
So same thing. All right.
Same theory.
Now, after spending the night in the refrigerator in milk, what are we going to do?
Now we're going to blanch it off in chicken stock, and what that's going to do, it's going to enable it so that we can peel them and get some of the excess
the membranes and
the
things
membranes
like that off?
and all
Okay.
that out of there.
Okay, so
this is what it looks like. It's we're just gonna take it, go right into chicken stock. Chicken stock is an important thing to have in your kitchen.
Yeah, okay, so, and I know you've got that all the time. It was at a boil when we put the sweetbreads in.
Yep.
Okay, the sweetbreads have been boiling in the chicken stock, and let's clarify exactly what part of the veal the sweetbread is from.
It is the thymus gland. Thymus gland.
So not the brain.
Not the brain.
Not the brain.
Although it does look like a brain.
It does. So tell me what part of the
the thymus gland comes from it's around the jawline.
Okay.
What you gotta do is see all this excess right here.
I do. What is that? Just membrane?
It's just a little membrane on it, and we're just gonna kind of pick them down. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just separate these two big ones right here.
Okay. We wanted to get the use of every single bit of that animal. You know, it was about feeding your family.
I don't think they cared about picking off the membrane.
They don't. No. Right. I've heard of all sorts of parts of animals that folks used to eat because they were hungry and they needed the food source. The sweetbreads are ready for the saute pan.
Right.
How do we get there?
Okay, so I've got my pan on the fire right there.
Yes.
A generous amount of olive oil. That's going to be our cooking medium right there. And this is that blended oil
The
again.
blended oil, we're not using extra virgin.
Right.
And that pan is hot.
Pan is hot.
Yeah.
It's getting hotter as we speak. I want it to be just at a smoke point before I put everything in. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit more.
All right, so Chef Andy told us that he seasoned this flour with salt, pepper, and a little bit of paprika.
A little bit of paprika.
And took some of the membranes off of our sweetbreads.
Right.
But wants to leave them in portion sizes that look like you can dig into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to mix that in real good.
So you want a light coating?
You want a light coating. You don't want to do this too far ahead because it will get gummy.
We need to remember that.
So you don't do that. You just want to do this right before you put it in the pan.
Okay.
And I can see my oil is just starting to kind of waffle a little bit. And I can see just a little bit of smoke.
So when it dances or shimmers, it
just shimmers a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll take my sweetbreads. You see how it's bubbling nice?
It's not going crazy, but it is bubbling perfectly.
Right.
And again, if the pan is at the right temperature, we're not going to have a problem with sticking.
That's right.
Wow.
It's not terribly browned yet.
Yes.
But I just want to get them kind of sealed up a little bit.
And I notice you're adding the butter afterward.
If you added it at the beginning, it would brown before you were able to use it. I'm going to add a little bit in there.
So it does keep it from burning as much.
And then I'm going to pop it in the oven for about 4 minutes.
4 minutes at what temperature?
Same temperature as the bread pudding is fine. 350 and 375 right in there.
Okay, let's get those little guys out here.
Take a look.
Oh, I'd say so.
I think they look great.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, they look nice and crispy and nice and brown.
Right.
Still kind of soft to the touch. They're not overcooked.
All right.
So I'm going to pull them out, put them on the plate here. So the first thing to do.
So you poured off a little bit of the fat, but left lots of flavor.
Left a lot of flavor in there. I'm going to add my peppercorn. Toss that around. Add, I've got maybe an ounce of cognac right here.
Now, should we do that over the? I know you all do, but if we were at home, we would remove it.
I think just out of safety's sake, you just go like this. If I had that over the flame, it would catch on fire. I don't necessarily need to do that.
Right.
Okay. But it's all. Oh, you can really smell that sweetness from the cognac.
Oh, it's heaven. Okay, remove it from the fire. Do it. No trouble. There we go.
I do want a little bit. I want to put a little bit of white wine on top of that.
What kind of wine would you recommend?
I would. This is a Sauvignon Blanc.
So pretty dry.
Yeah, very dry. I'm going to add. Now this isn't going to catch fire too easily.
But the cognac work out.
Right.
Yeah.
This is that same stock that we poached with. All right.
And we're cooking off some of the alcohol here.
Most of the alcohol is gone.
Most of the alcohol is gone.
The flavors are left.
Now, I was once told that if you cook it in a saute pan where it's, some of that's evaporating, you're going to lose more alcohol than if you put alcohol in a big Dutch oven, cover it, and put it in the oven. Is that true?
Very
That's true. Okay. we're really losing alcohol.
Yeah.
The beautiful spinach that we talked about.
Right. I will show you that in a second. A little bit of olive oil in the pan, maybe a little bit too much, a little bit.
And it's do that at home. You know, pour it in the sink. If you have too much in, you can get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Okay. Now this
Look at those gorgeous.
This is a Savoy spinach from our farmer in DeSoto. Now this comes. He brings this to us with the root still attached. It's fantastic spinach, and we even cook the roots.
This is almost like just harvested.
That's right.
It is. Okay.
So we'll put this in the pan.
Remembering that spinach cooks down real rapidly, so it looks like you're putting in too much, but you're not.
But I'm not. Okay, I'll put that in there. And then one way we like to put a little bit of flavor in there without adding.
I'm not seeing this done, but let's take a close look. You literally put
a garlic clove on top of the pork, and that's how I'm going to stir it.
Now tell me why you're doing it that way instead of slicing it and putting it in the pan.
I don't want any of that big pieces. I've already put plenty of garlic in the bread pudding.
That's true.
I just want the flavor, and so the hot pan touching this is releasing that aroma and that flavor.
So essentially, while you're stirring the spinach, you're introducing the flavor from the pan by rubbing the garlic.
And you notice how I've taken it off the heat?
I did.
Because I don't want the spinach to turn brown along the way. Now this is ready.
Those guys are happy. Oh yeah.
Add a little bit of cream, and then I'm going to turn it off.
You know, at the end of a sauce, you don't need a lot of butter, you don't need a lot of cream, just enough to add that richness and bring it all together.
That's right. I'm going to turn that off.
Beautiful.
And then put this back on the heat for just a moment. And you see that spinach is ready. I mean, it really, it's all wilted, with the exception of just a little bit left.
Not turned into mush.
Not mushed or like that that's going to come out of a can.
Yeah, no. And it's still retaining its beautiful bright green.
And if you smell it, you can smell the garlic in there too.
But it's not overwhelming.
Right.
I'm going to do this next time, Chef.
You can do this in a lot of ways with a lot of different vegetables.
What a great technique.
Okay. All right.
All right.
We are ready to plate.
We're ready to plate. We have been in the kitchen at Room 39 with their executive chefs, Ted Habiger and Andrew Sloan. We are ready to plate this signature dish. Chef, what are we going to do?
Well, first off, we need to get the bread pudding on the plate.
Okay.
So we're going to go and pull them out. Now, I would recommend using a towel, but as Ted mentioned earlier, we've been in the kitchen long enough.
I know you have. Yep.
We're going to go pop them out, set them right in there.
Gorgeous.
Then we're going to go ahead and get our spinach on the plate. That spinach just looks wonderful, doesn't it?
And the next time I make spinach, I'm doing what you all do. I'm putting a piece of garlic on a fork and I'm stirring.
Yep. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the sauce down before we put the sweetbreads down.
Okay.
Just use a spoon. It's a very rich sauce, so you don't need a ton, but you want to make sure you get enough so that you can kind of soak up some of that bread pudding too.
Kind of ties it all together, doesn't it?
And then one of our farmers brings us some of these beautiful little microgreens that have plenty of flavors. There's a radish sprout right here. I'm going to add a little bit right onto that.
It's kind of a peppery note. Thank you. We're going to go to the bar and pair this.
Enjoy.
And then enjoy. Thank you. We have just been in the kitchen at Room 39 with their owner and executive chef, Ted Habiger. We've made sweetbreads and truffle bread pudding and some fabulous spinach. All right, Chef, what should we drink with this signature dish? Because you've got some complicated flavors going on here.
We do. And I have to say, I often take inspiration from things that I've had in France, things that I've had in Italy. In fact, this sweetbread dish that we just made is inspired from a dish that I had in Burgundy, which is the capital of Pinot Noir. So I didn't choose a French Burgundy, but I chose an American counterpart. This is the Siduri Pinot Noir from Sonoma Coast, 2009, from our good friend Adam Lee. He's the winemaker. Fantastic. And we pour this by the glass.
Okay. And what are we going to enjoy with this Pinot Noir? What's its flavor profile?
Typically, Pinot Noir has very soft cherry flavors. it also has, because it's Sonoma Coast, it can almost have a little bit of like this kind of blackberry vanilla thing in the background, but it's not real predominant. And it also has a little bit of kind of mushroomy flavor, and that's why I like it with the truffles so much.
Truffles.
And
Okay.
it's light enough to go with veal. It's not too, if there was a Malbec or something with a thick skin grape, then that might be too much kind of fruit right there. And this has got good acidity, good balance. It's a great wine for veal or for chicken or for pork.
Okay, so we're going with the Pinot Noir, and now, frankly, it's going to all be up to our celebrity taster. He's going to be tasting the signature dish and sipping the wine, and I suspect he's going to enjoy every moment of it.
I think so.
Okay. I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and we have been in the kitchen at Room 39 with their executive chefs preparing a signature dish. We've gone to the bar to pair it with some wine, and to taste this creation, we have back with us our celebrity taster, William Rose. Thank you, artist, I should say, and not just any artist, but has done literally all the artwork for the Clint Eastwood movie soon to be released, Carmel by the Sea. Carmel by the Sea.
Carmel by the Sea.
Okay, so you and I have never had veal sweetbreads before,
Nope.
but we're going to now. Why, thank you, sir. Does that look yummy, though?
Yeah, it looks incredible.
It does look incredible. Veal sweetbreads, truffle bread pudding. They just sauteed some fabulous fresh spinach. We're gentlemen from DeSoto, Kansas. And then they made a peppercorn cognac sauce.
Wow.
Okay, but we're not
impressed.
finished yet. We're not finished yet because Chef Ted is going to suggest what we should drink.
With your sweetbreads, it's a very light meat, so I chose a Pinot Noir from California, Sonoma Coast. And maybe I should have chose one from nearby Carmel.
Yeah, well,
I have no idea, so here we go.
But up the coast a little bit. This is our Siduri Pinot Noir from 2009. Nice light in color, very well balanced, good acidity to balance all those flavors.
excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, it's time to dig in.
Give it a try.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Our first sweetbreads. Oh, they're very tender.
Yeah, really. You don't even need the knife. Wow.
What would I
It's
compare that to? It is incredible. I would say the texture reminds me of like a chicken liver texture,
A little bit, yeah.
you know?
Very good.
It is very good. I used to think that sweetbreads were brains. And so when Chef Ted told me that he was going to do sweetbreads, I said, I'm adventuresome, I can do this. And then I just learned it's not. It's from, I think, this area of the veal. But you know, in the old days, they had to eat all parts of the animal because...
Yeah. This is incredible. This is really good.
Is extraordinary. So bread pudding is usually thought of as dessert. Well, he made a savory bread pudding, and he used truffles. Truffles. These are from Oregon, not from France. So we didn't have to, bring them by Brinks truck. But still,
It pairs up really well. You know, and being in the gallery next door makes it easy to come back over here.
Guys, you know what to get here. Oh, okay. Now we're going to try. I'm going to click this and say to your health too.
Cheers to your health. Thank you. Very good. Very good.
He's just exactly what he said it was. It has a little bit of acidity to it, but it's still sweet at the same time. He's right, it works perfectly with this dish.
See, and I'm kind of I know white wine, red wine. That's
Okay.
about it. So,
I know, but how did you like?
It tastes wonderful.
It comes from right nearby.
No. This is really good.
I'm so glad you're
This is
enjoying
incredible.
it. The spinach is amazing, and the cognac cream sauce is amazing. The spinach is so fresh that it actually is delivered here with the roots still on it. The guys have to take it off. It's just as if they harvested it And
Did you
then
say it was
cooked
from DeSoto?
DeSoto.
Really?
Well, we had a very early spring, as you know. And so the early spring has these little spinach guys just came right on up. So you didn't start out as an artist.
No.
You
No,
were?
I was an IT project manager for most of my life. Yeah, I just
And how did you get over to art?
I kind of stumbled across the ability to draw about a dozen years ago or so.
And up till then, you had no idea. You
No
were-
idea. Never took art in high school. Never thought. Always kind of did photography. So I kind of had
So you liked the
knew I had a
visual.
good eye for color and composition and light. Just never thought I could draw somebody's face and make it look like them.
Which I understand is the most difficult thing to draw, is somebody's
people
face.
tell me that. It seems kind of easy to me. I coached girls sports. I have 3 daughters, and so I started out doing a lot of girls playing basketball and soccer and that sort of thing, and people wanted to commission me to do portraits of their daughters doing sports, and so it started from there, and then kind of took off in doing some more formal figurative work and portrait work, and getting on the covers of magazines.
So you got on
and
covers of
things like that.
magazines, and
Yeah.
how did Clint Eastwood discover you?
Well,
here in
I did
Kansas
a
City?
charcoal drawing that was on the cover of American Artist magazine, and they spotted that out in Barnes and Noble, and I got a call from this young director that just said, "Hey, I'm working on this Eastwood project out in Carmel. We love your work. Can you come out to Carmel and work with us for a few months on a movie project? Stars Josh Hutcherson and Lauren Bacall and Hayden Panettiere and Alfred Molina." And I was sort of like, kind of looking around, thought I was being punked or something, and,
Right.
and sure enough, and so they brought me out there for 3 months, put me up in Pebble Beach, and worked out there on a movie. It was the totally surreal experience.
Artists spend their lifetime wishing for an opportunity like that, and here you were. So you went from being an IT guy
Right.
into
And now I do it
just-
full time.
I know you have a very busy schedule.
Oh,
You've
it's
got
my
a lot of
pleasure.
commission work, and your time is tight, but we appreciate you coming over and being
Pleasure.
our
I'm
celebrity
happy
taster.
to eat wonderful food like this with you anytime. It's my pleasure.
Well, thank you, and much luck to you for continued success with your career.
Well, thank you.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Grabakoff, and we're bringing a special feature to In the Cellar. It is a series called Visiting the Vineyards, and this week we're going to visit the vineyards of Argentina, and what a better place to do that than Piropos here in Parkville, Missouri. Chris Cribb is our co-host with Marquee Selections, and its owner and keeper of the Argentinian culture, Christina Warden, and thank you for inviting us into the beautiful Piropos Grill here in Parkville.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we were talking about Argentinian wine, we had to be here with.
We did. Maybe we might start with your story and where you came from and how
Well,
you brought
I-
Argentina here to Kansas City.
Yes,
Did that,
yes,
you
and
did
it was a pleasure. I was born in Argentina. I was born in Buenos Aires. I've been in Mendoza many times. As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law is from Mendoza. So I started tasting wines very early in my age. And I just love Malbecs.
Also, the unique climate of Argentina and their devotion to organic and crisp.
We've got a unique opportunity. We have 2 companies, Binnacle and Calagiore, that are both 100% organic that we work with. And the first thing to say is their vineyards are very high in elevation. They most of, I think, some of them over 3,000 meters.
Yes, because Mendoza is really desert terrain, and it's desert until you get to the foothills of the Andes Mountains. And they are right there at Mount Aconcagua. One of the tallest.
She has to
I
say
have
it.
to say that
You have to
because
say
it's a
that
beautiful
for us.
word.
It is a beautiful word. So a really unique microclimate for winemaking.
Yeah, so you got that dry aspect
Exactly.
where when the showers come over from across Chile, it goes to the top of the mountains and it snows.
Yes.
And so all of these vineyards on the other side are dry, and if they need water, they go to the mountains and
Yes.
the snow melt.
Yes.
So
Perfect.
And
source of
Mendoza
pure
built
wine.
special canals. They go through the vineyards. So when the snow melts, it's the water for the vineyard, and it's just wonderful.
So, okay, you all are going to have to. We're in the vineyard. What are we going to see?
I'd say the first thing you're going to see is you're going to look up and you're going to go, wow.
Wow. Okay.
There's
So there's the wow.
I need a
factor.
glass of wine.
There's these majestic, large
Incredible.
mountains and
Yes.
all around, and almost, from vista to vista. It's
Yes,
probably the best way that I can put it.
Exactly. It's the background of the vineyards.
Yeah.
Completely.
So that's not a typical looking vineyard. Just
No.
You know you're in a special place.
Right.
Okay. And now let's talk about the special care that the winemaker takes with these wines.
Sure. So, some of the techniques that I can speak to, they're doing a number of things, like they release ladybugs in the vineyards to.
I just heard about that. It's a natural
Yes. Clean up.
Yes.
pesticide using ladybugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They release
How beautiful
ladybugs.
that
I
should
know.
be, no?
Well, when I was little, that was the only bug I would play with because
And
it
a lot
didn't
of the-
bite or sting.
A lot of the vineyards also do some counter-season flowers and grasses.
That
Yes.
must be
So,
gorgeous.
walking the vineyards, you're like, you see this little batch of purple grasses
Yes.
and some. It's very, very unique, and the soil in a lot of the area is kind of got some rockiness to it.
Yes.
And
Rockiness and sandy at
Yeah.
the
A little
same
sandy.
time. Yes.
So that sandy, rocky soil allows for the water to drain and the vines to get very stressed. And I think one of the other things that's really interesting about the Argentinian vineyards is a lot of them are very old.
Yes.
Because
So what were you telling me? The vines came over when,
Well,
Christina?
the vines start coming over to Argentina in the late 1500s.
wow.
As a
Talking
matter of
old
fact, people,
vines.
Yeah.
they were growing so much wine that the king of Spain completely forgave them to keep making wine because it was putting in trouble the wines from Spain. So they say no more. Let the vineyards grow and become wild and like trees.
Okay.
And then it was a grape there that is they make the rosé wine. It's a wild grape and it's very different than everything, and it comes from the wilderness of the vineyards.
All right, so
that
too
the
much competition
Criolla?
for Spain.
Criolla.
Criolla,
Yeah.
We say
okay.
criolla.
Okay. I'm working on it.
The Argentinians pronounce the double L like a Y.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's rosés because we were talking about rosé.
Like we have a Malbec rosé that we do from this vineyard, but that rosé is great for some of those nice dishes. Those
Yes.
kind of the start of the meal. If we're talking food and wine in Argentina, we've got to talk empanadas.
Okay, and that is one thing that Christina told us the first time we visited the other Piropos
Yes.
was empanadas were everywhere on the street, in every home. It was part of celebration.
Yeah, you don't make a party at home if you don't have a glass of wine and an empanada.
An empanada. Okay, what would you pair with this? Tell us what we're going to drink. And then-
Sure. This is the Calajori Reserve or Organic Binnacle.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about Malbec. Malbec is the biggest
bigger-
grown
Yes.
grape in Argentina, and Binnacle is kind of like its second son.
Exactly.
No,
Yes.
the second child. Okay.
Yes.
And it's really the
Well,
only place.
to life
Cheers.
A good wine.
and to good wine. Okay, so we're going to make a decision here. Oh, nice.
So the Binnacle has got a little bit
It is
more
different
bright
than-
fruit,
Yes.
where the Malbec is a little darker fruit.
Yes.
This is more like red fruits, a little bit.
The Malbecs are almost purple.
Right.
Yes.
So,
And this with a
So what
meat
would you pair?
empanada will be perfect.
A meat empanada.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we would pair. What would we pair our Malbecs with?
With what we call our asado or our parrilla or our barbecue.
okay.
Okay,
Which is
so-
different
so-
meats.
Okay, and the
And-
barbecues, so a little stronger flavors
Yes.
for the Malbec.
Yes.
Yes. Growing up, you were introduced to wine
Yes.
early on. What was the role that wine played? And it was Argentinian wine, I
In a
assume.
household, it was water,
Water.
water and wine,
Those are the options.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
club
household.
soda and wine.
And club soda and wine.
So
Okay.
when I grew up, I was very 6, 7 years old. It wasn't Coca-Cola that I will drink, or I will drink juices and I will drink
Yes.
a little bit of wine with water.
Ah,
So
okay.
they start.
That's what they
start
give you
making-
early on to
So that
young
reduced the
people.
alcohol content,
Yes.
but it was still.
It's just to give it color.
To give it color.
Yes.
Color, give it a little flavor.
Yes.
You know.
Sophisticated. All right, so let's talk some more about that one, your winemaker. What is this? The one with the dogs?
Sure.
Okay.
it
What is that?
This
This is a good story. You need to hear this
Gustavo
story.
Calagiori is a winemaker that makes our Reserve Malbec, Bernarda, the Organic Legacy, and a Rosé that we do. So we've gotten, he's gotten into a number of different varietals. He is a second-generation Italian immigrant.
Christina's half Italian.
Okay.
Mama.
So his family came over and bought vineyards about 40 years ago, and they produced grapes and sold them to big companies for a
Yes.
number of years. And then they finally said, look, we're going to do this ourselves, and we're going to make our own wine. We're going to do everything 100% organic and put our name on the labels.
Huge commitment.
It's a young winery from an old family. And I think that actually when you start to look at what is happening in Argentina, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of the second generations
Oh, yes.
that have really taken over.
Yes.
You were just mentioning the Catenas, and
Yes.
that family is one of the, I would say that it's
And what is funny, because I was reading the book, and the grandpa or nono, what they call in Italy, nono catena,
Yes.
was the one who said too, we grew up drinking water and wine. That was the only drinks at one point in Argentina.
So a huge role in Argentina and the resurgence of winemaking that goes beyond the country but shared with the world. How did that happen from the world market?
Well, they did a lot to straighten their boat out and to be a world-class exporter. They've had their troubles with in terms of their monetary situation. Inflation kind of has been high, and so
It's been a problem.
and but during that whole period, they kept working towards growing a brand name, and the brand Wines of Argentina has really pushed to grow. And that's actually how I found the other winery that I work with.
Let's talk about that one. Yeah.
Binnacle, and Binnacle is a newer company, but that
Have you had a chance to go to that one? Okay, well,
Okay.
something to do the next time you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm on my way there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In 2
Now you-
weeks.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Binnacle is also doing a real committed set of wines in the organic region. Just really bright, fresh fruit that they're able to get in those northern regions because you're going even higher in elevation.
Exactly.
That's where we're enjoying white wines more than the traditional Malbecs.
A little more white wine
Yes,
comes from there.
yes.
And the Torontis grape is a indigenous grape to only that area, and it's something that they've just cultivated in a style that is very fresh, kind of the start of a meal.
Yes.
I think is kind of the way I
Yes.
usually think of it.
We
like a
have
fresh salad.
a lot
and-
of Torontes in the restaurants.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and is that usually appetizer, lighter fare?
Some people who like white wine,
They
and
just want white wine, right?
it's on the sweet side a little bit, but not very sweet like the German white wine.
Riesling or
But
whatever, right.
it's very, people really like it.
Okay, so the food, the wine, it's part of everything that you did. You drank it from the time you were a little girl. Is it exciting? It must be exciting for you to come to America and see the wines of your country here. Is it?
It's in the first years that I was here, it was very difficult to find wines from Argentina.
Okay.
Very difficult. And then I will say in the last, 25 years, they start coming in. And when we open the restaurant, we can find only like 2 vineyards that we can buy wines for the restaurant until we went to Mendoza. And then we visit Bianchi, we visit Catena, and start talking. And it's one of the wines that we sell the most now. And we find wines now from all over Argentina. NQ from Neuquén and Patagonia, and it's incredible for me to see the difference in years.
Because it used to be France, and then France and Italy, and then Sonoma.
But I used to be the Argentina was very small,
Yes.
big producer, but we drink all the wines there.
In the
It was in the
And
country.
they still remain one
And
of the
they
largest
still,
producers.
yes.
I think they might be the 5th largest producer in
Yes.
the world.
In the
It is.
world?
Yes.
Yes.
Would not have known that.
And
Yes.
there
In the
is
world.
they consume a lot there. They
Yes.
sell a lot in the whole South American continent too.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I learned when I went there.
Are we going to find Argentina wines in Europe?
Yes.
Yay.
As a matter of fact, I was in Europe, I was in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And I drink Argentinian wine.
Argentina?
Yes, yes. And I try to do it all the time when I travel.
Well, you know, the fact that you're asking for it, but really getting into this global market with this wonderful wine. The Malbec's just amazing. Most of the wines are.
It's good when we pick the right ones. And,
Exactly.
you know, just like when you make your
Like
own,
everything.
Yeah, just like when you make your own meals.
Yes.
Sometimes you know
Yes.
you've made the best steak, you made the best
Yes.
empanadas,
And this one didn't come out too good.
Okay, but that's
Yes.
all part of the process.
Exactly.
Well, so you know, Marquis is noted for going in and finding the unique vineyards that perhaps haven't had an opportunity to find their home
Yes,
here in
I've been reading
America.
about it.
Wine Spectator has recognized
Yes.
his efforts with fabulous ratings for both the wine and value prices.
we've tried to do as much as possible to help be a steward in finding that great value price. And I think that that's one of the things that when you go into a wine shop or you're going into a restaurant and looking on a restaurant list, look to Argentina as a good value proposition because you're going to get a lot of flavor.
It's true.
And you know, it pairs
And
with a
great
lot of different
prices
stuff.
for
Yeah.
the wines.
Yeah, great prices for the wine.
Yes.
Well, Christina, we want to thank you for hosting us here at your
Thank you
lovely
for having me.
restaurant and all your passion and devotion to preserving your culture and food here for us in Kansas City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
much.